Bftb, best fight the best. So, in trying to get one champion in every division, I feel like the tournament style is the best way to do it. So, starting at the featherweights, where you have champions like Gary Russell, Leo Santa Cruz, Josh Warrington, Oscar Valdez. And in order to do a proper tournament, you want to get 8 fighters up in there. That'll give you the proper tournament instead of just doing, just the champions fighting against each other. If you get 8 fighters up in there and let them battle it out, then you'll get a really good look, a really good capture of who the best is. Right? So looking at the divisions, where you have in WBC, you got Gary Russell, you got Tungs Desat, you have Carl Frampton, you have Jesse Magdaleno. In WBA, you got Leo Santa Cruz, you got Shakur Stevenson. Really, that's it there. In the IBF, you got Josh Warrington, and you got Shakur Stevenson there, and you got Tungsat there. I really don't rate Kid Galahad that much, so not even going on there. Plus, he's about to fight anyway. And then in the WBO, you have Oscar Valdez, you have Jesse Magdaleno again, you have Carl Frampton, you have Shakur Stevenson. So now, in order to, we can pick out 4, because we can pick out the champions. So we can pick out Gary Russell, Leo Santa Cruz, Josh Warrington, and Oscar Valdez. But now we need to get the other 4. So how I'm doing it is to look and see the highest ranking guys and how they're and if they're highly ranked in other sanctioned bodies as well, at least in the top 10, at least, preferably the top 5. So if you look at the Tungsat, he's number 1 in WBC, he's number 8 in the IBF, so he's ranked in 2, so that one should work. He's in the top 10. And then you look at Carl Frampton, he's number 3 in the WBC, and he's number 5 in the WBO. Then you look at Jesse Magdaleno, he's number 4 in the WBC, and he's also number 4 in the WBO. Then you look at Shakur Stevenson, and he's number 3 in the WBA and number 5 in the IBF. So those are the 4 that are highly ranked in multiple sanctioned bodies. So now what we want to do is we want to look and see how will we match them up. So there's a couple of ways to do it, but the best method is to get the highest, get the fighter that's ranked in the highest, right? So if you look at the WBO, you have Jesse Magdaleno at 4, and he's also number 4 in WBC. So you can just pick, you can take your pick on which one you want in that respect. Right, you can take your pick on which one you want, but I put them in a WBO, and you'll see why here in a second. Then you look at the WBA, right? You have Shakur Stevenson at number 3 in the WBA, and you have him at number 5 in the IBF. So if you're using that model, then putting Shakur Stevenson against Leo Santa Cruz is ideal, because he's number 3 there, where he's number 5 in the IBF. So you wouldn't put a number 5 against Josh Warrington when he's number 3 in the WBA. So it just makes sense to use him there. Then if you look at the IBF, right, and this is where it gets a little tricky, because you can say, okay, well, we'll put Tungstat against Gary Russell, which is just obvious because he's number 1. But if you use Tungstat against Gary Russell, then you leave the number 8 against Josh Warrington, and it's like, okay, well, that's fine. Then that looks about fine. You can do that because he's number 1. But then now you have Carl Frampton. You have Carl Frampton at number 3, and you have him at number 5 against Oscar Valdez. He's number 3 in the WBC and number 5 against Oscar Valdez. So if you put Carl Frampton against Oscar Valdez, well, then now Jesse Magdaleno was higher than him. So it would just make sense to put Carl Frampton against Gary Russell. Right? Both of those are higher known names, so it just makes it better that way. So you have a Carl Frampton, the number 3, against the champion. Then you have that makes it easier for the Jesse Magdaleno, because now Jesse Magdaleno can go against Oscar Valdez, number 4. Then you have Leo Santa Cruz versus Shakur Stevenson, so number 3 versus the champion. So you have number 3 Carl Frampton versus the champion. You have number 3 Shakur Stevenson versus the champion. Then you have number 4 Jesse Magdaleno against the champion. And the only one that's one off is Tungstad against Josh Warrington. But he's number 1 in the WBC, so he's going to get a title shot anyway. So you have your matchup set. Now let's get into the actual fights. So Oscar Valdez versus Jesse Magdaleno. I think Oscar Valdez, his pressure will be too much for Jesse. I think his constant front foot action would be too much. He's a banger. He's a brawler, and I know it'll make for an exciting fight. But I'm gonna go with Oscar Valdez by unanimous decision in this fight. I think his relentless pressure will make it exciting, but I think that'll be the key in this one. And I don't see anybody getting dropped in this one, but I do see Oscar Valdez in a clear win. And the IBF championship for Josh Warrington versus Tungstad, I think this one will be a unanimous decision. Josh Warrington is he's a beast, man. He's just absolute. His offense, his defense is lacking, but his offense is insane. The dude is just a straight up fighter. Like, he's just a fighter. He just comes forward consistently. He gets hit, but he throws so much. And Tungstad, where he has some good pop, I don't think he'll be ready for what Warrington's going to bring to him, and not necessarily ready in a way where he can't do anything, because he's got, like, if I'm not mistaken, he has like Olympic level pedigree. That styles make fights, and I think if Tungstad can keep Warrington at the end of his jab, and I think he can do good. However, I doubt he'll be able to do it, and I'm going with Warrington by unanimous decision. Moving on to the 2 more intriguing fights with Leo Santa Cruz and Shakur Stevenson. In this, I'm going with Shakur Stevenson. I think Leo Santa Cruz, yeah, he may have the more experience, but again, styles make fights. Leo Santa Cruz is going to want to bang with the youngin, and Shakur Stevenson can pop. He can pop, and I think he might sit Leo on his ass. But I do think, just because of the popularity that Leo Santa Cruz has, this fight could be a unanimous decision, but I think he's going to get a split decision, and I'm going to go with Shakur Stevenson for the split decision win. I think his youth and aggression and power is going to be the key in this fight. I feel like Leo will probably try to come out aggressive, and then when he starts feeling that pop, I think that's when Leo's he's going to be on the back foot, sort of like he was in the second fight against Carl Frampton, where he was on the back foot a lot and he was trying to outbox him, but his reach isn't such a superior advantage, and I believe that Shakur actually has more pop. So I'm going to go with Shakur Stevenson as the new WBA champion, winning by split decision on this one. And lastly, the most intriguing matchup for me, Gary Russell Jr. versus Carl Frampton. These are 2 very, very good fighters. Although Carl Frampton ducked Rigo, so did Leo. But I think Carl Frampton, the Jackal, is a really good fighter. He's got it all. He's got it all. But I just feel like Mr. Gary Russell is going to be way too much for him. I feel like once his hand speed, Mr. Gary Russell, his hand speed is disgusting, man. His hand speed is disgusting, and the man has an absolute killer instinct. So I feel like at this point, Carl Frampton, he's getting a little long in the tooth as it is. I mean, yeah, not necessarily in actual age, but in like wear and tear. Those fights with Leo put a little bit on him, and his last couple of fights as well. But I'm going with TKO. I think Mr. Gary Russell Jr. will stop him and retain his WBC title, and then we'll move on into the Final Four, which I have Mr. Gary Russell, Shakur Stevenson, Oscar Valdez, and Josh Warrington. And both of these fights are really good fights. The stylistic matchup between Mr. Gary Russell and Josh Warrington is going to be, man, I would love to see that fight. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. I think stylistically they match up very well, where Gary has fast hands and Josh is just all out action at all times. I feel like this is going to be an absolutely stylistic gem. I feel like there won't be 1 second in this fight where there's a breather. Both of these guys, the constant hand, as I said before, the constant punches, the constant movement from Josh Warrington is going to make this fight exciting. However, the speed, the punch placement is going to be too much for Josh. I feel like, as I said to you before, Josh Warrington gets hit a lot, although his productivity is insane. I feel like that productivity will be detrimental to him, and I see Mr. Gary Russell coming out on top and becoming the WBC and IBF champion by split decision. In the fight against Shakur Stevenson and Oscar Valdez, I feel like this is a really good fight. I feel like this is a stylistic gem as well, just due to the fact that Oscar Valdez is a come forward. He's just on the front foot monster. He just won't stop. He just keeps coming. He's not the fastest, doesn't have the greatest of footwork. However, his footwork is substantial. It's very good. Doesn't really have the greatest of defenses, so the punches will land. And I feel like Shakur Stevenson, how they say he's coming into his man strength. How they say, I don't know what that was all about, the man strength. I just feel the dude can pump. He can pop. And I feel like he will stop. I feel like he'll stop Oscar Valdez. I feel like he'll stop him. I just think Oscar will run into something, and when Shakur catches him, he's going to wobble him, and I feel like Shakur he's going to finish him off, probably somewhere in the late rounds of an all-action fight, which will get us down to the fight for Undisputed. Just to recap, I have Mr. Gary Russell over Carl Frampton. I have Shakur Stevenson over Leo Santa Cruz. I have Oscar Valdez over Jesse Magdaleno, and I have Josh Warrington over Tungstock. Now, and I have Mr. Gary Russell over Josh Warrington, and I have Shakur Stevenson over Oscar Valdez to set up Shakur Stevenson versus Mr. Gary Russell for Featherweight, Supremacy, and Undisputed. And in that fight, this is a very good fight. I think this fight stylistically will be not as much action as the previous two fights with the previous two fights with Mr. Gary Russell and Josh Warrington and Shakur Stevenson and Oscar Valdez, but I still think this is a good fight. I don't think it'll have as much action. I think it'll be more of a chess match. And I feel like, where Shakur may have the power and the youth, I think that the hand speed, the aggression, and the IQ. Not to say that Shakur is stupid at all. He's not. He has a very high ring IQ. But you can't knock what Gary Russell has been through. You know what I'm saying? He's fought Lomachenko. Not to say that Lomachenko is the greatest in sliced cheese, blah blah blah, yada yada, as some of my brothers may think, and I'm okay with their thought process. But it's like fighting Floyd Mayweather, man. You're gonna take something out of it. You're gonna get something from that, and I'm gonna go with Mr. Gary Russell to become the undisputed featherweight champion by split decision over Shakur Stevenson and the Muhammad Ali trophy winner, along with the lineal champion. Bftb. Shout out to the LDBC. And I'm out.